Hello and welcome to Ethical Hacking and Penetration Testing. This is Chapter 8, Metasploit. And for those of you who've never heard of Metasploit before, it's a free to download tool. It does come with many different interfaces, many graphical interfaces that you can use with it. That they are kind of more beginner level and more kind of junior security analyst level. They are really good because it does give you quite a good graphical representation of your targets and the network, etc. But if you want to get down into the nitty-gritty, you really need to use a command line, which isn't particularly easy to use. The manual for it is over 1,000 pages long. However, this will just give you a really brief taster of how it works. I mean, I could do an entire course on Metasploit, and it probably still wouldn't cover everything it does. So we're going to cover Metasploit basics, some advanced Metasploit, as well as some practical usage for it as well. So this is what we call the MSF CLI, or the Metasploit Framework command line. You can start it, or you can look at the help for it anyway by doing MSF CLI -H. And it tells you at the top here the usage for it is user bin MSF CLI, and then the particular mode you want it in as well. So this one mode you have A for advanced, which shows the available advanced options for a particular module. The same here for this auxiliary mode. You can check, which runs a check routine on all the selected modules. You can execute the selected module. Help, you're looking at a baby. DS evasion, or IDS evasion, sorry. It shows available IDS evasion options for this module. It's really good that it's got that built in, because evading IDSs does take, it's not difficult, but it does take a bit of thinking about. And if it can do this for you, perfect. You've got all your eggs in one basket, then you would only really need Metasploit to do everything. You wouldn't need a network fuzzer or anything like that just to get you past an IDS. So here is an example of some of the commands you can run. MSF CLI, multi/handler, payload equals Windows interpreter, using a reverse TCP connection, which means the host calls back to you, and localhost equals IP execute. And then you would have auxiliary scanner, HTTP version, remote host, then the IP address, encoder, post, and then NOP execute. So one thing to note when using the MSF CLI variable, the variables are assigned using equals, and that all options are case sensitive as well, as are most things in Linux. So this is what Metasploit actually looks like, or the MSF CLI anyway. Once you've actually started it, this is what you'll get. It's a nice banner. Here at the very top you can set, if you want to load a particular module, you are loading an exploit with Samba here called the user map script. You've got the IP address of your target and the payload you want to deliver as well. And just off the screen here it has the localhost IP address as well, which is your IP address. And this is the process it goes through for the payload. It basically runs the CMD Unix reverse script, and then it starts a reverse double handle. It accepts the first client connection, accepts the second client connection, and it echoes a particular string out. I'm not quite sure what that does. It writes to both sockets, reads from both sockets, and then in the command shell you can see here it's got sending from port 4444 on this address to port 57682 on this address, this date. And then this exploit might actually give you command line to the box. It's backwards, not forwards. Sorry, here we go. So yeah, more about the actual MSF CLI. If you're not sure what option to use, you can use the -H for help. That is kind of universal for most tools and most Linux applications anyway. So here we have the MSF CLI exploit multi-Samba user map script. Once it's actually kind of figured out what you're trying to do, and you haven't put the correct information in, if you run it with the O switch, it'll initialize the modules for you. It will tell you the name, such as our host, our port, what it's currently set at. So the R port here is set to 139. Both fields are required for the test because you need a target and you need a remote IP, remote port as well. And just the description, remote target address, remote port address. It's kind of, like I say, all your eggs in one basket, that's all you need. Now here, to display the payloads that are available on the current module, you need to append the letter P to the command line string, as we've done at the top here. So some of the benefits of the MSF CLI is that it supports the launch of exploits and auxiliary modules at the same time. It's useful for very specific tasks. It can be tailor-made or tailor-configured anyway very easily compared to other tools. It's good for learning because it's not easy. So you need to investigate what you're doing a bit more, and you don't need to know everything about what you're doing, but it does require you to be able to use Google and find out what you don't know, which I guess is true of any IT task really. So it's convenient to use when testing or developing a new exploit, because you can run test modes on it. You can run it against boxes that aren't an actual target, and it'll give you feedback as well. The logging on this is really good. If a particular exploit doesn't work, it'll probably tell you why as well. And if there's any problems with an exploit, they should also be highlighted. It's a good tool for one-off exploitation, in that it can be run from a Jumpstart CD, or I'm sure there is actually a Metasploit framework live CD now, so you can just basically boot that live CD, and then you'll get what you need. So it's excellent if you know exactly which exploit and options you need, because it can be very quick. It can be as easy as one command line, and then you've already sent your payload in your exploit. And it's wonderful to use in scripts and basic automation as well, because it is all command line run. You can put embedded commands in any scripts that you create yourself just to get done whatever you need, really. The only drawback of the Metasploit CLI is that it's not supported quite as well as something like the MSF console. It can only handle kind of one shell at a time, making it rather impractical for client-side attacks, because you need one for the payload, one for the exploit, one for an open shell, one to send anything else down the open shell as well. It also doesn't support any of the advanced automation features that MSF console does as well, which we'll see in the next video. So this is the MSF CLI. This is one of the interfaces that's used with Metasploit. I'm sure this only came around in some of the later versions. I know MSF console has been around for years because it is better for embedding things. It wasn't as good for embedding things in scripts and things, which is why the MSF CLI is coming along, because you can inject particular strings into the MSF CLI and it will run it. You don't actually have to be in front of the console.